live this morning with the Morning Mint, and we're so excited to be sharing with you 6 mistakes to avoid when you are buying in this incredibly hot market that we're in. Good morning, Michelle. Good to see you all. We are working on making this a better program for you. Today, we're going to be featuring Chris Toland and Lucas Callejas, 2 incredible agents here at Triple Mint. And we're having a good conversation about what's happening in the market right now. We're hearing a lot of stories about bidding wars, and we're seeing this in the stats. And so happy to have these two guests on today so that we can talk specifically about how to win in this market and what kind of mistakes you can avoid in order to be sure that you are gaining the upper hand. So we want to thank them for joining us. Also, so that you know, for those of you who love to tune in to the Morning Mint, we are Tuesdays and Thursdays now going to be going live, and Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8:30, so that some of you can sleep a little bit longer before logging in to join us. So good morning, Kim. Good morning, Tammy. Hey, Michelle. Happy to see you. So let's see. Chris is going to be joining us now. Good morning.
Hi.
Great to see you. How are you doing?
Doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Love the artwork behind you. I know that that's a good friend of yours who did that, right?
Yes. His name is Michael Curry. He's becoming a very successful sort of commercial artist. It's a glass mosaic. We love it.
It's gorgeous. It's really a nice piece. Okay, so good morning, Marnie. I was lucky enough to see Marnie at the coffee shop this morning, and so happy to have you. Let's see if we can get Lucas on here. Okay, while we wait for Lucas, let's get started talking about the real estate market. I mean, an incredible piece of news came out that said that 25% of sales in the United States in April were all cash. So, I mean, obviously people have a lot of money out there and they are using it to buy real estate, which is such an incredible way to use it because, you know, especially in New York City, these prices are appreciating year by year. And so tell us, Chris, what you're seeing in terms of, you know, obviously I know you're working on with several buyers who are in bidding wars as well. What are you seeing in terms of data that supports this, how hot the market is, especially in this case, we're talking about Manhattan right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting stat that came out recently was, it was from Urban Digs, where they said that if a property sells within the first 60 days, which means it's priced correctly, that there's literally almost no negotiation at all. I mean, I think it was 0.5%. You know, so it's funny how quickly we went from, you know, a buyer's market and, you know, people saying, oh, I heard they're giving apartments away in Manhattan, and they're absolutely not. Yeah. So you see a little more negotiation if a property is not selling in the first 60 days. But usually that means that it's overpriced.
Right. And I mean, we're talking mostly about sales today, but also what I've heard from many of the agents, hey, morning, Lucas, is that, you know, rentals are also now flying off the market as opposed to just a month ago, 2 months ago, where there was such, and still is, a glut of inventory, but I mean, things are just being gobbled up and people are waiting. But okay, over to you, Lucas. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you. You know, so today's episode is really dedicated to the people who are out there working on finding a home in this hot market. And so today, Chris and Lucas are sharing 6 mistakes to avoid when buying in a hot market. So what are those 6 mistakes? Chris, over to you.
I mean, I would say the first and most important is you should really avoid the temptation to go it alone. I think a lot of people think that they're going to get a better deal if they go unrepresented.
Yes.
And it just isn't the case in a hot market like this. I can't recall I don't have any specific data, but I know that when you're involved in a bidding war, it's always the buyer who has a broker that wins. It's just because you need the guidance. We do this every day. If you're a buyer and you're doing this may be the first time you've done it, maybe the second time. Whereas you have an experienced broker, we do it every day. You can only benefit from our experience.
Okay. Such a good tip. And a lot of people, when we were talking about and preparing for today's episode, we thought, people might think, we're just trying to push agents. But the reality is this is a huge value add for a buyer, especially when you are, in a market like this where there's so much competition. Okay, Lucas, what else? What's another tip or another mistake to avoid?
Avoid thinking your strategy can be consistent across the board. So a short example of this is I have a couple that I'm helping. They're looking both in the Upper West and they're looking in Brooklyn. And even just like what to expect on showings is different between those two things, because Upper West Side, it's a good market, but you can still typically do viewings midweek in the morning. Brooklyn, like some people probably know, it's exclusive days during the open house. So just even knowing how to apply strategies differently to different neighborhoods, different boroughs is a really important thing to have proper expectations. Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. Oh, and I want to say hi to Rosa, your wife, who just logged on. Okay. Okay, Chris, what else? What's another mistake to avoid?
I would say, when you're talking about price, when you're making a bid, just don't mess around with it. Like we said before, if properties are selling within the first 60 days, and you can tell if you're at an open house or if you're doing a private showing and there's someone ahead of you, there's someone behind you, it's a very busy environment, you can tell it's priced correctly. A lot of people are out, a lot of people want it. If you want it, someone else wants it. So, if you feel like an apartment is priced correctly, then you should really just go in at the full asking price. I mean, I've seen a lot of people say, I want to take off. I see if we can save $10,000, on a $3 million purchase. Like, what are you doing? Just go in at full ask, and you'll be lucky if you can pay just the full ask, because a lot of times we're seeing things go over.
Yeah, makes so much sense. Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, Lucas, what's another mistake to avoid?
Yeah, that's a good segue to not having a misunderstanding of your budget. You need to have a proper understanding of your budget. So going back to the Upper West Side in Brooklyn example, this particular buyer couple, they're looking for a 2-bedroom around 1.2. So the Upper West Side, as Chris mentioned earlier, negotiability in Manhattan is basically gone. Especially on properties that are going to contract quickly. So we're looking at places 150, 1.2, maybe a little bit higher. But again, that same family just in Brooklyn, we're looking more like 1.50 million, maybe 1.1, because you don't want to be in a position where you're looking at 1.2 and that property is going to sell at 1.3, and it's just something that's outside the budget. So going back to the expectations, it applies to your budget as well. You've got to really have a strategy that's tailored.
Right. Makes so much sense. Hi, good morning, Roman. Thank you. Okay, Chris, what's another mistake to avoid?
I think a big mistake is not having your ducks in a row. Like if you are financing, and as you said before, Rosanna, a lot of people are paying cash. So, you're not at a huge disadvantage if you're qualified, but you've got to be able to say, here's my pre-approval letter. Not, I'll give you that in a few days when I get it. Like, you're out.
Right.
You should have all of your paperwork ready. You need a pre-approval. You need a completed revenue financial statement. You should have an attorney retained and ready to go. These are things, when you're in a competitive situation and you get that call, you say, hey, congratulations, you got the apartment. And then you say, give me a couple of days to call an attorney and figure out who I want to work with. No, you've got to be ready to go on that day.
Exactly. It's so true. And so many people who don't know that, they have to miss out first before really understanding that and being ready. And so, okay, thank you. Okay, Lucas, what's our last mistake to avoid in order to buy and have success in a buyer's market?
Don't expect it to be easy. I say this to almost every client I work with. The search portion is going to be like a marathon, and you need to be mentally ready for that. And then once we find the right place, you got to be ready to move from marathon running to sprinting, because when you get an accepted offer, you need to be ready to move into contract very quickly. So be ready for the duration, and then flip your mindset to now it's time to really, really go quickly.
Love that. It's so helpful to know. And, a good thing that we talked about, Chris and Lucas, was that these mistakes can, for the most part, be avoided when you're working with a qualified agent, which is what your first mistake to avoid, Chris, is trying to go it alone, because there's so many nuanced details about the New York City market and in many, in many of our markets. And so it's, this is just like a really important mistake to avoid is trying to go it alone. So, okay, well, thank you both for those mistakes to avoid. We hope that will help some of our buyers. And obviously, if those of you who are watching are thinking about buying, Chris and Lucas are an incredible resource. Reach out to them. We're going to have their handles, their Instagram handles in our captions so that you can contact them for some help and guidance in buying. Now let's talk about what's happening around New York City, because I think we're all feeling the buzz and the energy of the city opening up and so much going on. So Chris, over to you. Tell us what we can't miss in what's happening in New York City.
Well, one thing that I'm very excited about, I'm always pushing the Uptown events, but coming soon to Harlem is the Uptown Night Market, which is going to be Thursday nights from July through November. And basically, it's just an outdoor kind of market with all these booths set up. All the local restaurants will be there, providing food. There'll be music. I think it sounds like a really great way to spend a summer evening. Hopefully this heat wave will pass and we can maybe get a cool night, but I'm looking forward to that very much.
Okay, well, if not a cool night, at least a cool drink. That should help. Okay.
Indeed.
Chris, thank you. Lucas, what are you suggesting that we take part in here in the city?
Right, so actually just starting tomorrow, the 9th, there's an organization called Picnic Performances, and they're doing a 25 events in Bryant Park. So anyone who's returning to their office, I think some of them are midday, some of them are going to be after work, some might be on the weekends. There's going to be a whole variety of kind of these Broadway style performances that are free. They are also going to be live streamed, but they're going to be running most of the summer right there in Bryant Park. So it's going to be pretty awesome because you get the outdoor time, but also some of the art and culture that comes with New York.
That sounds amazing. I think everyone's going to be so happy to see live performances again, especially
That's
outdoors.
right.
It doesn't feel, where it feels much safer. And I want to remind our viewers that tomorrow also the Tribeca Film Festival is starting, and it's going to be in all 5 boroughs this year, which is a really special upgrade to the festival, which is also in celebrating its 20th anniversary. So we hope to see you at some of these events. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Join us Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. on the Morning Mints, and be sure to follow Lucas and Chris on Instagram. Thanks so much for tuning in. Chris and Lucas, thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Ro. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.